Station meeting to order on January 18th, 2023. May we have a roll call, please, Sierra?
Mr. Backer?
Here.
Mrs. Cosette? Mr. Manning?
Here.
Mr. Forrest?
Here.
Mr. Glover?
Here.
Chairman Gordon?
Here.
Mr. Hammond?
Here.
Mr. McCain?
Not excused.
Ms. Seller?
Not excused.
No, so she did say she was going around. Mr. Winslow?
Present.
Mr. Strong?
My turn to talk about Mr. Stroman.
Yes, sir.
You know, as chairman of the committee, I've had the pleasure of getting to know each and every one of you all, but in some cases, I've gotten to know your family and in particular your wives as well. And through that period of time, it has been a pleasure to know each and every one of you, but unfortunately, this is one time which I'm really saddened to report on Joe. Had a call from Joe's wife right around Thanksgiving time. And all she would tell me at that point in time is that Joe was going into MUSC and was going to have surgery. And obviously that was of great concern to me, and she wouldn't divulge any more. I spoke to her in December, before Christmas, a couple times in December. And after that, she elaborated on what had basically transpired. Joe was found to have had a serious tumor on the left side of his brain. And Joe was operated on in December, and basically he joked a little bit about, his son joked a little bit about it because Joe had been a biology teacher throughout his life. And if Joe could have talked, he would have been telling everything that was going on with him because he'd lost all the functions of his right side of his body. I spoke to them on Monday evening, and the good news is Joe is home with his wife, and it appears it will be a long term for him to get better, to say the least. And so I've spoke to Councilman Dawson about it, and he will work with the family, as well as he will probably appoint somebody to fill his position. It is in our transportation plan that somebody misses 2 meetings, they can be removed with a letter from me to the county council. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let Councilman Dawson handle that in his own. But I teased Joe. His wife was laughing. I teased Joe. I said, just in time, Joe, that's where he shows up for our meeting. He always walks in at a minute to 4, ready to go to the meeting. And she said that Joe was actually laughing, and he was trying to talk. He thought it was pretty cool because he recognized everything that was going on. So I simply would ask you to keep him in your prayers and thoughts. He's been a great committee member, and hopefully he'll be able to return at some point in time. I haven't heard from Mr. McCain, and today it was intentional to give him a certificate of appreciation. Mark has not only been on this committee, but I think that if Jenny told the truth, I think she attended some of the other meetings with the CTC before we reformed it.
Right,
Mark-
and then, yeah, he was also briefly on the LRTA committee, and then the county said he couldn't be on both.
Both.
So he's been, that must be, I don't know how many years, really.
It's been 7, this ends 7 for him, and I thought he had done at least 5 or 6 before that. So he has served quite well and with honor and distinction for our committee, and he will be sadly missed. His views will be sadly missed, but life drives on, as you say. So that takes us through the call to order. We do have a quorum, and we'd like to go around the room and have introductions. Tab, I'll ask you to lead it off for me.
Okay. I'm Anna Marie Tabernick. I'm the new Beaufort County District 6 councilperson.
I'm Mike Healy, I'm the assistant president of the engineer.
I'm Elizabeth Sanders, the SCDOT Beaufort maintenance, resident maintenance engineer.
Stephanie Rossi, Low Country Council Government.
Suzanne Larson, Low Country Inside Track.
Brian Bauer, Beaufort County Transportation Construction Manager.
Wes Campbell, ditto.
Paula Brown, Councilwoman for District 8. Yeah, District 8.
My district, I'd better be on good behavior. With that, I appreciate everybody being here, and I'd ask you all to rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is open for public comment. Is there anybody here to speak? Don't think so. With that, we'll move on. Item number 4 is approval of minutes for the November 16th, 2022 meeting. Is there any corrections or objections? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. And Mr. Moore, you walked in at perfect timing. Greg Moore, let's talk, and before you start,
Yes, sir.
I've tried to, when you look at our agenda, there's been a lot of work Sierra and I've done on it, and her team, over the last 30 to 40 days. I'm trying to change titles around to make them more specific as to what's transpiring. Second of all, not only we're trying to do that, we're trying to get our slides to be somewhat standardized so that each meeting you'll have a history of what's going on. You'll be able to put it in your binder and keep it, and you'll be able to refer back to it whenever the DOT isn't doing their work. You're going to be able to say, why aren't you doing this? Well, and all types of stuff like that. But it gives us a little bit better history of forming in this fashion. So with that, Greg, you're up. Our district project update.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, like you said, from the last meeting, we simplified the format of this a little bit, and so we're still tweaking it. But essentially, it's going to be, with taking out this slide, closing slide, you're essentially getting 3 slides, assuming there's not so many projects that roll onto multiple slides. But you've got projects in closeout, you've got active contracts, you've got upcoming contracts, you have other contracts that are far enough off, they're not really in a status, or they're not necessarily my project, but a different resident such as Cross Island, and you've got discussion and questions. So again, all right. Closeout project, you got 5656990. This one had final inspection last month. They're in closeout right now for punch list items. Not much for Beaufort County. This was spread across Beaufort and Jasper. You've got a list here, so this should be relatively quick closeout, hopefully. So, does anyone have comment for any of those streets themselves? Any concerns, questions?
Nope, that looks good.
All right. Active contracts, 075-4230 US 278. This is primarily intersection safety improvements. I'd say probably the big highlight here is they've got a completion date of March 2023. The big one for the town of Hilton Head lately has been down at Squire Pope intersection, trying to get that cleaned up, done. The big holdup there, just so everyone knows it, is there's been a lot of issue with nighttime concrete supply. I'm not hiding that. It's the concrete suppliers want to, see if I move this way a little bit. The concrete suppliers can frankly make more money during the day And so we've been in the process of trying to get a new concrete supplier in. And so that's why some of those areas that got opened up have taken so long to close up. But hopefully we're at the tail end of fixing that issue. So they were actually actively out there over the last week trying to get ready to pour concrete there. So those activities should be picking up. And then also coordinate with the town of Hilton Head to try and make Heritage Week a little bit easier. 0761610, this is the resurfacing work going on down from 278 from Gumtree down to Indigo Run is Area 1. Then you've got Area 2 we have not touched yet other than marking it down further into Hilton Head. Apex, the contractor there, they have a contract completion of June of 23. They've primarily been in the eastbound lanes. Earlier they were in the area in the westbound lanes. They're back in eastbound right now. So they're going to, hopefully with temperatures, they can meet intermediate course and then move down into Area 2, come back, do surface. But then they've also got a follow-on contract. So Area 2 will get a little bit messy for a little bit.
Yeah, the temperatures have to be dwindling, hopefully, you get a little bit warmer weather, get something done.
Yes, sir. But so far they've been pretty good. So they've been staying pretty productive. 565-6260, the contract keeps dragging on. Everybody knows this is out on Hunting Island. Most of the work, except some corrections out on Sea Island Parkway, is done for this contract. Everything pretty much remaining is inside the park. 5660410, this contract got introduced as being the last half mile of Sea Island Parkway out to the Fripp Bridge. Again, they just have some rideability corrections there, and then they'll be finishing that section. We'll be accepting that hopefully soon. And then they've got a whole list of other roads within Beaufort County and Jasper to go to. But we don't have any start date for those other roads yet, so. Upcoming projects, 5663110, this is a lot of resurfacing. This contract goes from the Harriet Tubman Bridge in Beaufort County all the way down to Speedway in Jasper County and out to Hilton Head. So this one is literally everywhere. But it's a lot of resurfacing, reconstruction, so. Next one. 0763010, this is the continuation of 278 resurfacing. This one has a completion date of July 23. So APAC would literally be rolling continuously, trying to minimize the joint creation from Area 2 into this contract. So we're doing a little bit of workaround with the construction traffic signage, so try and minimize the confusion of the traveling public, so.
On S7-129 Islands Causeway, that's CTC funded part of that work. We gave them, $600,000, I think, towards it. Does that sound right, Elizabeth?
Yes.
So,
Only the first half of Island Causeway will be in 2023. First 2 miles.
and that's a point that you all need to keep in consideration. We're going to talk about this several times, paying attention to the state projects, their resurfacing upcoming projects. We'll be talking about that later on and its relevancy, so we'll keep on moving. Go ahead, Craig.
All right, if no one's got any other comments for this one, next slide. 5663740. This got awarded to Carolina Pavement Markings. They're up out of the Myrtle Beach area. Right now, we're simply in the coordination. This is a district-wide contract for pavement markings. And so there was the prior contract got coordinated out of one of our Charleston offices for construction. Right now, District 6 Maintenance is working with Elizabeth and the other RMEs to get a list together of all the roads they need pavement markings done on. And so hopefully I have that list by the beginning of next month, but Beaufort County is on the top of that list for getting pavement markings done first.
Okay.
So,
What type of markings you putting down, paint or thermal?
Thermo. Any other questions?
Go ahead.
All right, so other projects, 278 Toll Road conversion, they recently, within the last month, did the final inspection out there. How long that punch list is, I don't know, but that project is nearing completion. And then 278 corridor, I'm not even gonna touch it.
I'm in the loop on that, so it's.
I'll leave it there as a talking point, but until I have something else, I'm just gonna skip that one.
Okay.
All right,
Questions?
any questions for me?
Thanks, Mike. We'll be using this format.
Yes, sir.
Correct the rest, standardize things for us.
If you have any other changes for me, Mr. Chairman, just let me know.
You're on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bauer, Dirt Road Projects, 52 and 53.
Well, that's resurfacing, but I'll go through the dirt roads real quick. So Dirt Road 52 is complete. We're just waiting on the closeout documents, and then we'll get those roads turned back over to the county and closed out. Dirt Road 53, which is Rainbow Road, Northview, and Twickenham, is in design currently. We have a meeting about one of the roads tomorrow, and then that should begin construction underway later on in the spring, and hopefully all three roads be finished by the end of the year. And then Dirt Road 54, which is rocking of School Road, Church Road, and Francis Jones on Defusky Island, bid today. It looks like we got one bid. Don't know all the details yet.
Wow.
But, so that should be interesting. We'll
It'll
have
be
to
a
go.
very difficult project, hauling everything across the bar.
Yeah, everything's going to be barged, equipment, material, everything. So we'll have to, logistics on that one are going to be tricky.
And I'm presuming that 2025 is 55 by Consor's report, you're going to refer to as year 55?
Consor's report year 2025, I think, is actually going to be contract 56.
56?
Yeah, because we're going to bid contract 55 this year for design and construction. Then the first year of that should be 56, I believe.
Okay.
So,
Last month, we gave you printouts of what the dirt road paving program would be, so you can adjust that, showing 2025 is their project number 56.
yeah, so that's dirt roads. The next thing is the CTC resurfacing update. So year 5 is complete. We're working on, our contract is working on punch list and closeout on that one. Year 6, resurfacing. So background on that one, we are working under 2 pavement evaluation reports. F&ME performed a evaluation of county roads and are done twice. First one was years 1 through 5. Year 5 was just completed. Year 6 is just bid. And then there's also the report prepared by AMT, which is the less than 500 ADT, low volume SCDOT secondaries.
Right.
So we have combined those 2 plans, year 6 of the F&ME report and year 1 of the AMT report, into both bidding this year. And we have split that up into 3 different bid packages. One is resurfacing, which is just hot mix asphalt. This one bid on last Friday. Second one is a rejuvenator, which is a Reclamite product, which is, there's proprietary material, so we have received a bid from that supplier. And then this third one is going to be a preservation contract, which is going to include microsurfacing and scrub seal, which that one bids on February 14th. You want to go next slide, Sierra? So, as I said, we received bids for resurfacing on Friday. There were 2 bidders, and the low bid was Blythe. It came in just over $3.5 million. This is going to be the breakup of what's county roads and what is on SCDOT roads. The county road portion of it came in at $1,289,000, and then the DOT roads came in at $2,219,000. For this contract, we are including a CEI contract, which we're doing through the county's CEI on-call. FNME is going to do the testing on this. For the county portion is $20,000, and then on the DOT portion, it's going to be $52,000.
Okay.
As I said, the second one of those contracts is preservation, which will bid on February 14th. These are the roads that are listed on that contract. So county roads on the left, which are going to be microsurfacing, and then SCDOT roads on the right, which are scrub seal. And then the next one is the Rejuvenator. This is all the roads that will be included in the Rejuvenator for it, and that came in at $319, $480, $28. And also on the preservation, we will be doing CEI on that one, testing and inspection, and that will be done by ICE, again, under the county on-call.
So the reclamite is 319K,
Yes, $319, $480, $28.
and the breakout for paving was 1.289 county and 2.219 for DOT.
That sounds correct, yes, sir. Can you go back 2 slides?
Those
Yep, right
numbers
there.
will be summarized in the minutes.
Yes, and bids, some of them are in the minutes.
Some of them are in here and some aren't. And
It's just, some of the bids aren't in yet.
Yeah, and I would just like to have a chart with all.
Yep.
Yeah,
We're headed in the same, we're going the same direction.
Okay, good, good.
and that's what I have for the 3 bids that are, for the 3 bids that we're going to be putting out. And hopefully with the resurfacing, once it goes here, I have to go PFC and then council, so hopefully we can try to get an NTP to the contractor, hopefully in March.
Okay. I want to turn to my treasurer and let Jim do a little talking here for a second. What, you've been going over this.
Yeah, Brian shared this information with me over the last couple of days, and we've discussed it, and obviously there's a number of factors that are contributing to the bid cost being, somewhat significantly higher than what we had budgeted. We do have funds in our C fund program. We have right now a balance of almost $10 million. And we have to spend a significant amount of the additional money that we got from the state, from their program. So I think the questions before us is, we do have the funding, but is there anything that we want to do to maybe adjust the scope to give us a little bit more comfort level with particularly the resurfacing project? That's the big one. That's kind of straining the budget right now.
I'm going to digress now a little bit, and I'm sharing some information with you all that there is a number of new members on our committee. During COVID, the non or self-administered CTCs had a telephone call with the Secretary of Transportation. We had a lengthy conversation of about an hour, actually. And during that hour, of the 24 counties that were self-administered, meaning they have committees that manage their money, not DOT managing it, I was shocked to find counties that had spent beyond their means. They had contracts in place and they were banking on the funding that the CTC was going to receive to help make certain they had the bills covered for that year. And of the 24, I think all told, there was 6 counties that were in financial straits. They didn't know if they were going to, because of the number of people moving and everything else that was going on because of COVID, it dramatically reduced. In fact, it reduced the funding for us somewhere about 1.1 million that year. So it played a significant role in basically in what we were able to do. Cherokee County was one of them that was really in very dire straits, and so was Horry County. I remember very vividly. So my caution to everybody is, and Brian's been putting up with me for the past 2 months, harping on the fact we can't overspend. I don't want to overspend what our means is, but at the same token, we are obligated, of the $5.8 million that we received, we're required to spend $3.8 million on DOT routes. So that is something that's decided, we don't get any slack on. The other thing I'll share with you, and it gets missed, Brian, you deal with this, but when you stand back and reflect on the state of South Carolina, I think grand total, there's only 12 or maybe 14 asphalt plants in the whole state. And so they are the driving force behind it. You know, when you stand back and we started, Brian and I was talking the other day, and all of a sudden he started counting. He said, well, we got one here, then we have one in Walterboro, and we got one in Charleston. And that's kind of the way things get broke out. So they're in a driving position to state what they want to get for the pricing. But that said, we did something this year that had never been done before, and that is on all the bids we put out, we put asphalt adjustments in it, whereas if the price goes up or down, we're able to adjust the pricing to accommodate that. So we proved that at our last meeting, or the meeting before, and that was a good move on the committee's part to do such. But we're in a position where the $2.2 million for resurfacing for the state DOT projects appears to be sufficient. The $1.289 million, I think we can handle in resurfacing, and Jim and I have talked a little bit about that. Those two seem like no problem. We also add to that, round numbers, if we go $1.3 million for the resurfacing, we add in $300,000 for reclamite, that takes us about $1.6 million. We have roughly $100,000 we'll spend in construction inspections. That takes us about 1.7. They will get split. County and DOT will get the DOT credit for their portion. And the only thing missing is a less than 500 ADT, which is due February the 14th. And our forecast for it was what?
I think budgeting for it, we included, on the conservative side, I think we put $4 million for the actual construction contract and the CEI. I think our estimate was at 3.2, and so just to be conservative with that number, including CEI, I think I bumped it up to 4.
Okay. Now, we have a choice, and essentially the choice is, I don't have a problem of holding things up 30 days. And because we're having a meeting next month to the 15th for our retreat, I don't have a problem holding it up and taking a portion of that after the retreat portion, since it's an established meeting. We can go through the numbers then to make certain we are positive with where we're at, rather than taking a guess at this point in time and saying, well, if that comes in at $4 million, we'll be pretty close to what we have to spend. So I'm open for discussion. What would be your all's pleasure? I'm trying to give you as much information. I know it's like a fire hose at this point in time, but we've been working on these for some time. We've been working under good budget numbers. We plugged in budget numbers that we had gotten from the most recent bids, and it still wasn't enough. So it's not that the estimating wasn't done properly or anything.
I guess this is just kind of a more general question. Do we do any sort of contingency financial planning based on the fact that, I just, from some reading I was doing today, we're have to be in a recession sooner than later. And Beaufort County doesn't get hit as much because we don't have industry here. And, but still, it may, first of all, lower the costs of doing anything, and at the same time may slow down population growth. And so I was just wondering do we do some forecasting and have different scenarios, or what do we do?
One of the things we've done, going back, the committee had never had a contingency fund established, and we established one at the end of year one of the committee when it reformed. So we have $500,000 sitting there that's not pledged, not owed, and hasn't been touched. So it's not where we can't use those funds to help keep the projects moving. I've asked Brian to look at what would happen if we needed to do a reduction. You want to show that slide?
Yeah, can you pull the red line slide, Sierra? Yeah, so if you asked me to pull out close to $1 million from the county side of the resurfacing. So that is what would be left. I think it's 3 roads from our county program would be left on there. The rest would be removed. There's a little bit of wiggle in there with mobilization cost, and then, some of the unit rate items, patching and things like that. So it would vary. We may be able to add a road or 2 back on here or there, but just at a base million, I think that right there came out to $1,010,000 reduction.
So the point before us is we can wait 3 or 4 weeks and readdress this, or we can go ahead and approve 6 at the current rate, or year 6 at the current rate, or we can do an approval of the reduced year 6, and with the opportunity to add on additional either at our February or March meeting, depending on how funding is received over the next couple of months.
Greg, you mentioned back during the pandemic, there was several counties that were going to overrun. Where does the funding come from to cover that, if that happened?
And I don't want to go there because you have to go to county council and ask them for the money to borrow the money from them because our funding is strictly separate. The only thing the county does with our money is hold it for us. The money belongs to the CTC. It doesn't belong to the county in any fashion, but they do provide the bookkeeping for us as well as they keep it in an account where we draw interest separate from the county. So it is our funds, but we would have to go to the county to ask for funding to support us, and I'm not exactly in the mood to do that.
But if things went south, that's what we'd have to do.
Precisely. They don't pay for, the CTC funding doesn't pay for it. Now, if you take in consideration, we're sitting here, and this is the way it's played out, where we've set it up intentionally. January is typically the month we award contracts. It goes to county council just as a formality because all they're doing is approving the contract that they have formed. They're not approving the work, they're approving the contract with the contractor. And so with that, it doesn't, our actual paving doesn't really start till April, May time span, and they have to be done by June on things for the state work, so we get credit in this fiscal year. So it's a difficult situation for us to walk because we have to get the state portion released. That has to be released so that we can get that into motion and get it done before 1 June, because we have all those dollars, almost $4 million we have to have done by 1 July to report, or else they don't give us credit if we have committed the funds. The work has to physically be done by 1 July.
Brian, what happens if you reduce the contract amounts? Is there a penalty that the contractor can up their unit prices?
So it's bid lump sum, but we'd have to take it back to purchasing and see. I believe we have a 30-day built-in on our prices, but we have to confirm that with purchasing. All our roads are billed as lump sum and not unit rates, but if it exceeds 30 days, I think they have the right to go back and adjust the values.
it's done quite intentionally. It makes them accountable for the takeoffs rather than the county being accountable for the takeoff.
But the work, if we reduce the amount, we could pay more for what's left.
Correct.
Is it possible to do a conditional approval?
Yes, ma'am.
So that work or bidding, whatever the first steps need to get underway could get underway, and
That's exactly what my hope was. If we would go ahead and approve the DOT portion and the reduced county portion, and then at our next meeting in February, we could add on to it at that time, because we'll have funding, a picture of the funding then for the next section, and it would be that's a prudent way of doing it. That's what was my hope.
okay, that's what I was thinking.
Would you like to make that as a motion?
Yes, I would, but I don't remember the exact words, but.
So, Mr. Chairman, real quick, so with the reduced portion, removing that 1 million out of there, and then with a 15% contingency to cover the asphalt adjustment and anything like that, that brings it to 2,874,626.43.
So we will do the reduced portion for county roads in year 6 resurfacing and do the DOT resurfacing, and that's your motion.
That's so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Yes, Kurt?
Did I hear a figure mention of $10 million balance or something?
Correct.
That seems like a pretty hefty balance between January and June the 30th.
Well, 6 million of that came from DOT in that one-time grant.
But what I'm trying to say is if we've got a $10 million balance, what are we,
Let me help you with the numbers, okay?
okay?
Roughly, it was $5.8 million that, and I'll also, I didn't bring this up, but this needs to be heard very clearly. What happened was when the state legislature approved $250 million of resurfacing, and they gave us 1 year to do it in. 1 year. And I had harped on them to allow us to spread it out over a 2 or 3 year period, and they didn't. The legislature passed it and said, tough luck, this is what you're getting, you have 1 year to spend it. So not only that $250 million is not only in Beaufort County trying to swallow it all at one time, it's all the counties, the 46 counties in the state are dealing with the same dilemma. And contractors are smiling because they have lots of work to do. So that $5.8 million, if you take it, make a round number, say $6 million. Then if you take what our paving that's been set back, what we get is $3.5 million. So that takes us to $9.5 million and $500,000 reserve.
Okay.
So that takes you to 10 million real easy. So that was our 3.5 is what we had accumulated this past year to be spent on our paving projects this year. So those are where the two blocks of money are, 3.5 million from our monies, 5.8 or $6 million from all the funds that DOT gave us and our contingency.
But if we still have $10 million, how can we anticipate or think there may be a shortfall and delay approving the projects? That's my dilemma.
All we're doing is being cautious about it, and we're approving to the tune of about $3.5 million today. We have another $400,000 we'll be spending. We have, along with that, for reclamite, and we have $100,000 we'll be spending on construction inspections. So that's all we're committing to. And the other one is the state secondary update of the 500 ADT, which is a tune of about $4 million. So not knowing where that bid's coming in, plus we haven't added in the contingencies to these numbers, which is 10 to 15%.
Well, by the retreat next month,
Mhm.
will we know whether we're solvent or not?
Yeah.
Well, then.
We're solving it today, because we're not overly,
That's what I'm trying to get my hands around. I'm hearing $10 million.
come on, do the math with me. 5 million,
I understand that, but I mean, fine.
okay. We do have a motion and second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
So noted. That is only for construction year 6. Would like a motion for the $319,000 for the reclamite. Do I have a motion for that? Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The last item is, that we need to approve is the construction inspection contracts for $20,000 for the county and $52,000 to do the DOT section of it. Do I have a motion for that?
Yes, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That takes care of items D, E, and we will postpone E for our conversation at the retreat.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Clausen, you're up. State Route 170 and a triangle update.
Good afternoon.
You didn't get us any pictures, did you?
So I did check with AECom.
Right.
The updates that they had done, or the pretty pictures that they had done, was for the overall access management plan.
Right.
So I pulled sheets from the plans itself to be able to show today. So 170 there is obviously congestion that is picked up along this corridor. This is, we had worked with AECom for now probably over a year and a half to come up with, there was a access management plan that was done on 170, and there are near-term, midterm, and long-term improvements that are funded, or that we're looking at for the 170 corridor. The near-term improvements are just kind of some spot improvements that we're looking at along the corridor, and those were actually funded through partnership or a IGA with with Jasper County as well as City of Hardeeville. So we all have skin in the game on this project. So I'll run through. I've brought this project up before in the past. We're really, really close to getting this thing out to bid, and just want to update everyone with a few visuals just to kind of step through what each one of those improvements look like. Here. So we'll start on the south side and work our way north. This is Oakady Center South. So this is where, up the road is Oakady Ale House, Walgreens, Publix, or not Publix, I'm sorry, Food Lion is all up that area. Sarah, if you want to go to the next slide. So basically what we're doing with that improvement here, and it's a little difficult to see, but I'll kind of talk through that. We're basically putting a median up across 170 so you can no longer travel, it would be eastbound on Oakady Center South, and be able to make a left turn. So with this design you would be required to make a right turn at Oakady Center South, and then pull into that bulb out area, and basically U-turn to go back northbound on 170. So this is what we call an R-cut intersection. It's basically to take away conflict points at that particular intersection location. So again, much safer to the drivers, and again, eliminate some confusion, especially with speeds on 170 coming around the curve and through the interchange. So the next piece is really the south end of the interchange itself. So nothing really going on with the southern ramp, but there are some things that we're working on with the actual loop ramp up on top, as well as a coordination project that we have going on with SCDOT for some resurfacing on, actually, there's 5 ramps on the interchange itself, so all 5 of those ramps, as well as resurfacing up on top to get better lane utilization. So a little bit difficult to see in this particular picture, and I don't think I did a good job of putting another slide in here, but basically you see the loop ramp, and so today, as you travel around that loop ramp, when you get up on top of the bridge up on 278, you have to come to a merge condition, so you're merging into one of the through lanes of traffic up on top of the bridge. So with that overlay project, we're going to have the ability to restripe that up on top, and that's going to be a free flow lane. So you'll take that loop ramp from 170, loop around to 278, and have your own lane to travel down 278.
I'll interrupt you for just a
Yep.
second. This is a classic example of what happens when DOT, and I want to give Elizabeth an atta girl, this is what happens whenever DOT provides us with the list of the paving projects, because this was in an out-year paving project. It wasn't this year, it was going to be next year. And we were able to work with District 6, with Michael Black and Elizabeth. We were able to get the funding to do the resurfacing of all the ramps, all 4 ramps on 278, 170.
So Sierra, if you want to go to the next picture, so turned a little bit sideways and the interchange is kind of broken up, but if you can get your bearings, towards the top is where that loop ramp is. So really the only point of showing this particular piece is still have 2 lanes in each direction going underneath the interchange itself. There is going to be a channelized right turn going onto that loop ramp. The next slide next couple slides will explain that a little bit better. So again, this just to kind of give you your bearings. So this is the north end of that interchange. Again, I broke it up just because that's the way the plans were broken up. So again, a lot of congestion, especially for that southbound movement, and really a southbound right to use that loop ramp to head down to Bluffton and Hilton Head. So Sierra, if you want to go to the next one, please. So this explains a little bit better what's going on there. There's some improvements that are going on, some capacity improvements going on at that north off-ramp, as well as what you'll see is, and again, a little bit hard to see, but we're adding a dedicated right turn lane for that loop ramp, for that southbound right to get onto 278, and it's going to be actually channelized off. So it'll be channelized off from your southbound 170 movement. So again, what you see today where someone basically runs in that outside lane and tries to cut over at the last minute, they won't be able to do that anymore. So again, there'll be overhead signage to delineate which lane you should be in. And again, hopefully we'll create a safer situation there. What's also on this picture is Oakadee Center North. So that's where Ashley Furniture and those retail stores are there. So again, similar to what we did on Oakadee Center North, this is actually getting closed off. So again, no left turn movements at that particular intersection. So again, see a lot of crashes, a lot of congestion. It's just not safe. So again, that's where the improvements come in there.
This study was done under Jenny's guidance and direction when she was with LATS. And we're biting this elephant one bite at a time. It was quite a chore. It's like the whole corridor is like $100 million. So we're spending about $3 million, but this intersection, within a half mile of the intersection of 278 and 170, was 385 accidents in a 3-year period. Think about that for a second. 385 accidents over a 3-year period. That means there's over 100 accidents a year, which means it's about 1 every 3 days there's an accident there. And this, hopefully, with putting a wall up and dividing some of this up, should really clean up things in there considerably.
One of the things that there were objections to, not in the technical people working on it, you know, with the consultants. But some other people on the LATS committee was that by eliminating left-hand turns, you're going to make people angry.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw that happen on Boundary Street here when the left-hand turns were eliminated in most places. And, well, I've always made a left turn there, but that was when traffic. So I imagine once this kind of comes above and people start knowing about it, you will get some pushback on this. Well, you can't stop people from making left-hand turns.
Right, right. Well, and again, I think as the chairman pointed out, whenever it's a life safety issue, safety is always going to be the priority over any project that we do. Absolutely. I think one of the other things to mention about the improvements right here is with that Jersey barrier or the barrier between the two lanes, what that's going to allow us to do is keep that southbound right turn movement green for the entire time, other than when somebody is underneath the interchange and wanting to go onto 278 westbound. Other than that left turn, that southbound right turn will stay green the entire time. So again, as of right now, there's a lot of delay at the intersection just because all the turning movements that occur at that particular intersection, that should keep everything flowing. So that stacking that we're seeing today should be much further reduced from what we see.
I mean, I think when people see the results, I mean, they will come around to it, but I'm just saying that there will be some pushback.
Absolutely. Well, this will give this section of town a little bit of a taste of what the R-Cut or Super Street design looks like, because there is more that we're anticipating along the corridor, but with this project, it's just that one location south of the interchange.
County Council approved financing to do some of the design for this, so.
Yeah.
So that we'll be shovel-ready whenever funds are available to try to keep this project moving.
And I'll touch on that one in just a moment. In addition, then the reason for this slide is to look at that off ramp. So it's the westbound off ramp from 278 to 170. And Sierra, if you want to show that next slide. So basically, what we're doing here is dedicating 2 lanes that will now be able to exit 278 onto 170. They'll be delineated into 2 separate lanes on that off ramp. When you approach 170, there will be a dual left to be able to go south, and then a separate dedicated right turn lane to go north. So again, some capacity improvements on that ramp itself.
So instead of taking that left, people will probably go out the other way on Okatee and go on to 278 and then come down and take the left on 170. Take advantage of they'll just reverse the direction they're going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next one is one that we see, again, if you travel down 170 at rush hour, either morning or peak, you see a lot of tie-ups, especially in the morning time at this particular intersection. So this is Argent. Sarah, if you want to go to the next slide. So basically some capacity and delay improvements at this intersection. So right now, Argent has 1 left turn and 1 right turn as you approach 170. And with this project, it's just some simple restriping and some signal work, but it's going to create a dual left turn off of Argent. So what that means is we can reduce then the signal time, which ultimately reduces the delay of the overall intersection. So that stacking that we currently see, which it seems to keep growing out there, that, sometimes it extends beyond 462, and it's really as a result of this intersection, we're going to be able to dramatically fix some of the capacity issues that we're having on 170 there. So next one is actually at 462. So not a whole lot is going on necessarily at this intersection. DOT put in the signal. I believe it's been over a year ago or maybe a couple years ago now. But what we're doing now is extending that left turn lane to go onto 462. So that northbound left, as you see in the rush hour time periods, a lot of times that will spill out beyond the capacity of that left turn bay. So again, it's to create that additional capacity there. There's also a U-turn. You can see it just kind of at the bottom there of the diagram, and that's actually going to be closed off. Sierra, if you want to go to that one. And so that's going to eliminate that U-turn and then again, add that capacity to the left turn.
Again, just as a update or refresher, I went to Jasper County and worked with Jasper County CTC, and Jasper County CTC committed $50,000 to help support the traffic signals we put in at this intersection. And I think the total cost was only $85,000, but Mr. McPhee spent some of our money at that point in time doing mast study. He wanted to put mast up rather than putting lights up that are essentially the same throughout the corridor. So we stayed with the cables on it rather than mast.
Well, and that's kind of a good segue into, so that's what we have as far as what the near-term improvements are. So again, it's a spot improvements to really address capacity and safety along the corridor. Again, there was an overall access management plan that was completed on 170, and there's also one that's just about complete on 278, really from where Argent intersects with 278 in the triangle, all the way down through this interchange. So where AECom is currently working on that one as well, we're just about to a final report. So again, that all really builds upon what we refer to as the triangle project. So that's really that corridor along 278, the corridor that we've just talked about along 170, and then Argent Boulevard, which is in Jasper County, that connects 170 to 278. So as Craig had mentioned earlier, County Council had given us some one-time funding to be able to move forward. Sales tax has been pushed down the road, so just to make sure that we don't lose momentum, that we don't lose really our place where we need to keep these projects moving along, we have asked for some one-time funding, so we're getting ready to kick off the consultant on the overall design, which again will be more of your intermediate improvements along 170, then again improvements on 278, and then there was a study that was done by Hardyville, I believe, for Argent,
Yes.
and so that will be, those improvements will be included in that design as well. So that's kind of the overall triangle project. Again, one of the busiest, most congested areas in the entire county, and again, we're taking systematic, reasonable steps to improve this area.
Thank you,
With
Eric.
that-
Any questions?
Happy to answer any questions.
It's just nice when you were when you were working on something that was basically a plan to actually see it starting to be implemented. That
Absolutely.
is a good feeling. And not every county does that. And I think a lot of it has to do with this county working with another county, another municipality, and making it, because everybody is involved. I mean, it's not just Beaufort County.
Well, I think the important part, and Craig had mentioned that too, is just biting off what you can do, at the time. So rather than just kick the can down the road and say, well, we can't do anything until we get to until we get additional sales tax, being able to bite off these small safety improvements are really big for the community.
Go ahead.
I'm pleased to see this plan. I drive through that nightmare twice a week. What's your timing on these improvements?
So we're hopeful to get everything back to us and be able to go out to bid probably late spring. It's about a 6 to 9 month project. So again, hopeful to have everything wrapped up. We're thinking by the end of the year, if not early next year.
And it'll be phased?
Well, this whole thing, this piece will all be done. What was shown today will all be complete as one project.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you much.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like I get to do a little talking, and I'll be able to make up a little time at this point. Item A under new business, new local government services members appointed. I got a letter this past week that Chad Rawls, who I've worked with, he was in the department in DOT where he was in charge of the van that they used to go out and analyze roads with, and helped us actually do the Beaufort County roads with it. So he is moving over. He's taking Joe Storm's position. the position's been empty for 10 months probably. But they've changed his title and from CTC Program Manager to Local Government Services Manager. And I've invited him to our retreat to allow him to have him introduce himself and Ivana Gerhardt. So that's an information-only type item. Item B, retreat February 15th, 2023, Buckwater Recreation Facility. First thing I'm going to do to every committee member, for crying out loud, remember your badge that day. Yes, remember your badge. It's important because we will have quite an audience there at the meeting. We will probably have 5 or 6 members, at minimum from District 6. We'll have people down from DOT. We'll have some elected officials at it. So if you would remember to bring your badge. Also, the retreat, basically, we're going to provide lunch. It starts at 12. Jim and Nix is going to provide us lunch at our expense, coming out of our administrative funds. We're going to go through several topics. Introduction to pavement treatment and preservation. Slurry Pavers is going to put that in. Tim Herbst is going to present it. Then we're going to have pavement technology, pavement treatment, and particularly all of this is being done to try to bring everybody up to speed on the different treatments we're doing every day. And some of us talk about it pretty easily, and others of us don't have a clue what it's all about. So this way you'll have an idea and understanding of what we're doing. So again, pavement technology, Ken Holton's coming in for it. We will come back and have, after the meeting, have less than 500 ADT, and we'll take action on it. The last thing is, and I'm going to stomp on the floor a little bit about this. You heard me say earlier how good it is when Elizabeth is able to give us projects that she's working on and projecting for the ensuing 2 years. And she works with Marcy Timmons out of District 6, so I've asked them to make a presentation. But bear in mind, I wanted to use this expression when I went through Officer Candidate School. They used to stomp on the floor to make certain we were awake so that there was going to be a test question they were about to teach us. Well, this is a test question I'm about to teach you all. Remember, we split up this past year the funding. We spent $1 million this past year on state routes. This year we're spending that $1 million on the less than 500 ADT. Next year, we will be spending $500,000 continuing the less than 500 ADT program, and we will be spending money on the districts you represent. So if there are streets that have less than 2,000 ADT down to 500, that's the window you're supposed to look at it. That was the way this committee acted and approved. So that window is your responsibility. If you have roads, and if it isn't on her list, we need to be talking about it, and we will be talking about it in March, because it'll be in our next year's paving program, starting 1 July when we go out to bid again. And we will select a project or two to spend up to that $500,000 that we have to spend on state secondary routes. And you have the data to be able to analyze your state secondary routes. Okay, now what questions do you have about that?
Will we have updated data? Because the stuff we have from last time was from 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That's as close as we're going to get.
That's it, okay, because I mean, again, in my district, there have been traffic increases.
Yes, and unfortunately, trying to get the state, I think, on state secondaries, and correct me if I'm wrong, Elizabeth, but I think it's a 5 to 7 year window is how frequent they get to them. Whenever they did it, we had roads that hadn't been looked at in 12, 18 years. So having 2 years back, we're good, we're golden. I'm not seeing anybody shaking your head no. Well, that's good. All right.
I'm still mad at Google and Waze, because that's why we've got the problems in my district of all the shortcuts now from.
Next item I'm bringing up quite intentionally And you have a slide in there. It's showing county council has realigned their committees. And instead of this committee not being under the auspices of public facilities, our projects will now be through finance administration and economic development. And it meets the third Monday of the month. And so we're trying to get our schedule on our meetings and everything aligned so that when we approve a contract or whatever, it hits that next cycle with county council. So the only reason for bringing that up is to say to you, that's how county council is realigned and what we're working on. Next item.
Craig,
Yes,
excuse me,
sir.
with the new council members, have they reappointed any people to any of the districts, or?
Well, two of them are sitting here today, and I don't know that they've assigned us a new liaison yet, so that's as far as,
So it's still what it was?
yes.
Going to stay that way?
Yeah. Next item, repositioning of committee assignments. For lack of a better term, that's what I've tried to title it. We've had 3 committee members misassigned. They haven't been assigned to their district. Luana has been, lives in District 11 and represents District 10. So she's going to be moved into 11 because we lost the person that was in 11. And we had 2 people that were in District 2. And one of them is retiring, so Mark's retiring, and so we're able to put that person that was down in 10, move him back to District 2. So we're getting everybody back in their districts the way they're supposed to be. So I talked to Sarah before the meeting. It'll be before county council at the end of the month, repositioning everybody to the right districts. And we'll have everybody home and be able to look at their own routes instead of looking at your routes out of district. Okay. Next item on the list is item E, election of chairman and vice chairman. I will open the floor for motions for chairman of the CTC.
I move that Craig Gordon remain chairman.
Second that.
Further conversation? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Boy. Thank you for your confidence, I appreciate it. Open the floor for vice chairman. I'm not allowed to make a motion.
Well,
John Glover.
I again make a motion that John Glover remain as vice chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Treasurer's report. I think we've went over things pretty clearly, Jim, and I will, reading it.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any other real highlights in the spreadsheet here. I mean, in the middle section of the spreadsheet, that's been cleaned up a little bit with projects that have been completed, and we'll be adding the projects as we approve them for this year. But we've talked about, I think, some of the real key elements that affect our finances.
One of the things that I thought of when you were questioning things before, we haven't paid for this year's paving projects yet. So that also comes off that $10 million, so that will reduce it as well. That's the other missing piece of what you're looking for. Any further discussion on the treasurer's report? Hearing none, let's move on to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to make a public comment?
But I don't have, it's not on the agenda.
Nope. Nope, sorry.
Have what? I'm sorry.
It's, we restrict it, same as county council does. If it's not on a topic, a discussion about a topic that's on the agenda, it's not discussed. Now, I'll gladly talk with you after the meeting. My closing comments as chairman, again, I very much appreciate the confidence you put in me. It's a lot of work. And I sent out a document again to refresh everybody's memory. You know, we get audited every year, and the documents that we publish, we send under my signature to the Secretary of Transportation. Whether you recall or not, last year I gave you the report, the same as I gave it to you again this year. The Secretary of Transportation writes an overview of what has transpired through the CTCs. Again, of the 46 counties, they're up now to 26 are self-administered. There's 20 that aren't administered. They're administered by DOT. But they put a report in per every county, and that's what I sent you, the total report again. Not only is it her responsibility to send it to the state legislature, it's a legislative requirement, it gets published and it's on their website. And you think that our state reps and senators don't look at it, you're wrong, because I get questioned about it. So it's a document that's very alive, and very much the documents we provide, again, along with their transportation plan, it goes to DOT and gets published in their website. This is published in their website also. So just as a refresher on that, just wanted you all to know it. Well, I said, Jim, yes, sir.
Is there a chance this is not on the agenda per se, but it was certainly mentioned during the meeting. And with all due respect to the department, and my understanding is that the county is ramrodding this project, could we get an update on the 278 corridor project? It seems to have fallen off the world, and I realize we're coming through 2 holiday seasons or whatever, but could we have an update on what's happening with 278?
Yes. I won't keep the meeting. I'm current with it, and it's not something that is in our purview per se as a CTC, but I will definitely see that that's addressed at our next meeting. Okay.
So we can't do it at this meeting?
I won't do it at this meeting, intentionally.
What's the secret on 278?
It's not that it's a secret. That's not it at all.
Well, it would be nice to get a briefing, and maybe we could do it at the retreat.
I'll see if I can get that arranged. Be glad to. All right. Seeing no further business to come before this committee, meeting adjourned.